Welcome on into the Wolverine TV. Clayton Safey here with EJ Holland and Tim Verghese, our recruiting team here at thewolverine.com, where you can get our premium access for an entire year for just $1 in a limited time offer. So go take advantage of that right now at thewolverine.com. Inside scoop on Michigan football, basketball, and recruiting, which is what we'll talk about here today. 5 key recruits that we saw on the road. I guess it should be you guys saw on the road. EJ, you saw a couple really big-time 2022 recruits, including 5-star defensive back commit Will Johnson. Then, Tim, you saw a trio of targets. But, EJ, we'll start with you. Number one guy on this list, Will Johnson, 5-star D-back commit. His final high school game of his career. I know you've followed his career for a long time, developed a good relationship with him and his team, unfortunately for them, not able to pull it out in the playoffs, but a pretty damn good career for a guy who does a lot for that team, offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah, Will did everything. This past weekend, he had 175 total yards on offense and 2 touchdowns while playing wide receiver and Wildcat quarterback. He had 8 tackles on the defensive side of the ball against a run-heavy De La Salle team. And unfortunately for Will, his high school career came to an end. De La Salle, just a really, really good high school team there in the Detroit Metro. But I mean, it was a great career for Will at the high school level. Obviously, he's earned a ton of accolades. It's been a pleasure covering him. He's a guy that, I met when he was just a freshman and I was still on the Texas beat, and he just popped out to me, and we've, kept in contact since then. And it's just kind of funny how it all worked out with me coming over to the Michigan beat. But I mean, Michigan's getting a tremendous talent. I think Will is always questioned about his track times, but he has plenty of speed for his, 6'2", 6'3", 195-pound frame. I mean, you see it on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he's been absolutely lethal at wide receiver this year. So I think he can play some offense if needed, like a Charles Woodson did during his time at Michigan. I remember being at a 7-on-7 tournament this offseason, and Will said, "Put me in at receiver," and they put him in. And then Dante Moore turns around to me, Dante being the crown jewel of 2023, one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. He said, "Do you know Will was this good at wide receiver?" And I was like, "I didn't know Will was this good at wide receiver." So he actually had a couple of offers to play both defensive back and wide receiver. So I think you could see him on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, I mean, he's been great at safety this year. South put him there because nobody would throw towards his side of the field last year while he was playing corner. That's allowed him to make some more plays and roam the field a little bit more. I think people have forgotten how good Will is at corner. I mean, literally last year as a junior, nobody would throw to him. The game I went to see him last year, he had 0 targets. So he's a tall, long, physical corner that can shut down his side of the field. And yeah, he can play safety. He can play some nickel. He can play all over the secondary just because of his ball skills, his instincts, his elite technique. But again, I think people just forget how great Will was at corner last year. So he's a complete package. I mean, he's an early enrollee. I think he's going to make an immediate impact in Ann Arbor.
Then you made your way back home to Chicago to see Jimmy Rolder, 4-star inside linebacker out of Chicago Marist, one of the hottest recruits in the entire country right now, racking up big-time offers from big-time schools. Michigan, Ohio State, both in the mix there. Looks like it could be one of the few and far between in the last few cycles Wolverine-Buckeye battles, but could be something brewing there. Your thoughts on Rolder, where things stand, and what you saw from him?
Yeah, so Rolder has an interesting recruitment in the sense that everything's happened over the last 3 weeks to a month. He's a guy that didn't have any Power 5 offers and was committed to Illinois for baseball, and then has just exploded on the football recruiting scene with several major offers, including Iowa, Michigan, and Ohio State. I think those are the schools kind of at the top of the list right now. Wisconsin working to get him on campus. A few SEC schools have jumped in the mix as well, including Florida. But Michigan had him on campus a few weeks ago, made a big impression on him. Ohio State did the same. So right now, I think those two teams, along with Iowa, are really battling hard for his services. As far as him as a player, I think he's your prototypical big, athletic inside linebacker in the Big Ten that likes to be physical and smack people. I think that he could thrive in a defense like Mike McDonald, playing next to a speedier, more athletic guy, maybe in an Aaron Alexander, Deuce Spurlock, the guys that have a little more sideline to sideline speed and a little more comfortable playing in space. But that's not to say Rolder's not athletic. I mean, he's deceptively athletic. He's a guy that's a major baseball player, major baseball prospect. He looked comfortable in pass coverage. He did play well sideline to sideline. He's just so big and so strong that you want him being that thumper in the middle. So I liked what I saw from him. I think he's really one of the more important targets here late in the cycle. If you remember, Michigan's linebacker recruiting has been kind of a whirlwind. They led for Josh Burnham early on, who I thought was a really special elite athlete. He ended up committing to Notre Dame during the transition with the coaching staff. They didn't have a great visit with Sebastian Cheeks out of Chicagoland, and he ended up committing to North Carolina. Michigan had a silent from Jeremy Patton down in Texas, and then he spoke to God and ended up at Baylor, which is one of the weirdest recruiting stories of the cycle so far. So, Rolder's still an important target as Michigan continues to try to find an inside linebacker.
Yeah, it's crazy that his name has popped up because we've consistently just talked about new name after new name. This guy's off the board, that guy's off the board. Lander Barton was about it, and now Jimmy Rolder has come out of nowhere and is basically all that anybody's talking about when it comes to defensive recruiting for Michigan right now. Other than the guy we're about to talk about next, that Tim, you were able to see over the weekend, Jeffrey Mba. You made your way down to Independence Community College, which was featured on Last Chance U, a great season a couple years ago, I believe. But what did you see out of him? And from speaking with him at length, I know we talked about this earlier on in the week in a show, but just your thoughts and vibe you got around his recruitment to Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as a player, I was impressed. He's been a guy that was a 4-star recruit coming out of France back in the 2019 cycle. And reclassified to 2020, tried to play at St. Francis, didn't go through, tried to play at St. Thomas More. He had some issues with some transcript issues, ended up winding up at Independence. He played in the spring for them, and he's playing now. And he leads the team in tackles for loss and picked up, I think, 4 or 5 more on Sunday in a dominant 63-2 win. I mean, he was just the biggest guy on the field. No one could really block him. They tried double teaming him. That didn't work. He was consistently living in the backfield. It's just tough to run right at him. I mean, you just can't. I was really impressed. He's still really raw to the game. He admitted it himself. He's like, I still don't know football. He's like, I've played football. I understand what I'm doing out there, but like, what he's looking for in a school is a program that's gonna develop him the best. Whether that's the D-line coach, defensive coordinator, whoever that is, he's looking for the best staff that can develop him and turn him. He's 6'6", 315, moves really well. Who can turn him into an NFL guy? He truly believes that. I truly believe he can be an NFL guy. And yeah, on the recruiting side of things, Michigan's been there for a while. He had an hour-long conversation with Jim Harbaugh last week. It was the first time they've talked since he was in Paris. And not Harbaugh, obviously. Mba was in Paris. But they just caught up on life, just caught up on, how they plan on using him. Michigan wants to use him kind of all over the line, move him inside, move him outside, kind of have him all over the place. And they think he can contribute immediately. They believe they're going to lose some guys this offseason. We all know that, obviously, with Hutchinson, some guys in the D-line are going to leave to the next level or, obviously finish off their eligibility. So Mba is the type of guy that you can pretty much plug in from day one. And I think it's a trend you're seeing in the 22 class with the guys they're bringing in, from Kenneth Grant to, Mason Graham and stuff like that. He's like the guys that can potentially contribute from day one. And Mba fits that bill. So Michigan's done a good job here. I mean, he's going to make an official visit to Oregon. He already made an official visit to Miami, and he's obviously got an official visit planned to Michigan for the Ohio State game. He's got some unofficials planned. Tennessee's one that's for sure getting one, and a couple other SEC schools, potentially Mizzou, could get one. And I mean, he said he's not looking at brand names; he's looking at development. So I mean, Michigan's done a good job, but obviously, this thing's not done yet. But it'll get done here in 6 weeks or so, come December.
Yeah, the development aspect for a guy who's an international player and hasn't been playing football long, I think is super interesting, especially when Michigan has a guy on the edge, not Aiden Hutchinson, but across from him, and David Ojabo, who has 8 sacks this season, leading the team, who started playing football over in Scotland in 2017. So I'm sure that came up when Jim Harbaugh was talking to him as well, the fact that they have taken guys like that and developed them. And, man, you can see it week in and week out. I mean, David Ojabo is getting better by the week. So he's a prime example, something Michigan can use, something tangible they can use when development is that big of a factor. Caden Greene is the next guy that you were able to see, or actually you probably saw him before you saw Jeffrey Mbob, but the next guy we'll talk about, 4-star offensive tackle, 6'5", 326, out of Lee's Summit, Missouri. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, Green's interesting. Obviously, he's a guy that's he's coached very well. Lee Summit North has one of the better offensive line coaches just in the region, in Chris Gomez, really good coach. He trains in the offseason. He trains pretty much all the linemen in the area, in the state of Kansas, in the state of Missouri. Every high profile guy for the most part has at some point trained with Chris Gomez, and he gets to train with them every single day, and you can see it in his game. He's very technically sound. His feet are incredible. He got a compliment after the game. They won a playoff game. And an opposing coach came up to him and was just like, I knew where the play was going every single play because of your feet. That's just how good his feet are. And I mean, you match that with just his raw strength. I mean, you're not getting past him. He's got a good technique, got good strength, got a good frame. I think, I think he's a little limited long-term athletically, and that's not a bad thing. It's more of just he's a high floor type player that's going to be a very consistent tackle for someone at the next level. But it's he's not like a high athletic upside guy, and that's not a bad thing at all. It's just, he is what he is at this point. That's probably just what he's going to be for the rest of his career. From recruiting side of things, Oklahoma's out ahead early, Mizzou's out ahead early, Iowa's out ahead early. They've done a really good job in this recruitment. Michigan's in conversations with it. He talks to Harbaugh, he talks to Sharon Moore. He's having conversations with the coaching staff, but he's not been able to visit. While the other 3 schools I mentioned, he has been able to visit. He wants to hopefully make a visit at some point, but between their playoff run and trying to get up to Ann Arbor from Kansas City, it's going to be a little tough if it happens. It's in the off season, but Michigan's kind of looming in the background. It could potentially get more serious at some point, but for now it's more of just kind of keeping tabs, keeping him monitored. And obviously I'll have more on him obviously later as well. So.
Yeah, stay tuned for that at thewolverine.com. Let's finish up with Jaden Doss, 3-star wide receiver, also out of Missouri. What were you able to see out of him?
Yeah, so Doss was on the losing side of this playoff game, unfortunately. He's interesting. I've known Doss for a while. I saw him in the 7-on-7 circuit last year. And at the time, I had some conversations with some people in the industry that had seen him play in pads, and he is a very versatile type player. He looks more natural playing running back than receiver, and that's not even a diss at his his wide receiver ability. It's more of just it looks natural for him at running back. I mean, he goes and visits campuses, and coaches are like, hey, there are things you can do at running back that, like, some guys it takes years to develop. You just naturally see things better. You have just a natural better flow of the game at running back. He's grown a bit since I last saw him. I think he's well over 6 foot at this point. He's got a good frame to be a receiver if he wants to be. He can play inside or out. They tried to get him the ball as much as they could to try and rally them back in the second half. But at times it was a one-man show, and he was playing through some injuries. It's the end of the season, a little chilly out. He was kind of battling some injuries and a little limited by that. But he is what he is. I mean, I think he's going to be. I think EJ and me talked about this, but like very much an AJ Henning comparisons there, because he's just a very versatile player that has a lot of feel for the running back position. Schools have left his designation open. Running back or wide receiver. It's kind of just going to be when he gets to campus, they're going to decide what that looks like. On the recruiting side of things, they didn't get to talk to him directly. I'm hoping to catch up with him at some point this week. But I talked to a couple sources close to him. Michigan's going to be in it for him pretty much till the end. Michigan's a school that he believes is must visit. And he's hoping to get up there at some point this month. He was planning on coming in for the Indiana game. That wasn't able to happen. And they're hoping to get up there, whether it's this season, whether it's next season. He wants to experience a game in the big house. And, you know, Michigan's a school that's up there for him right now. And his recruitment's kind of wide open right now. I mean, though, if I can say anything on his recruitment at this point, it's, you know, I think some of the regional schools are falling fast with as some of the national attention kind of starts to rise around him, and you know, he starts to see, you know, he's got some bigger options nationally. But Michigan's in this one, and I'll know more once I talk to him directly. But Michigan's for sure very involved in him, and he could be one of the offensive, I guess, skill position takes they take in the 23 class.
Yeah, definitely interesting there. The AJ Henning comparison, I think, is a good one. He's a guy that, man, I mean, he plays slot for Michigan here and there. A lot of end arounds for him. He doesn't seem to be a natural receiver when it comes to route running. They try to get him the ball in different ways, but Michigan's shown that they've been able to do that. He's that punt returner, making plays, so something that they can use in the, you know, on the recruiting trail when it comes to a guy like this as well. But that is our show. 5 key recruits that we saw over the weekend. Great stuff from both EJ and Tim. For more of their Michigan football recruiting coverage, head to thewolverine.com. You can get 1 year of premium access over at the Wolverine. That's, you know, you can get on our message board, get all of our premium articles for just $1 with our limited time offer. So check that out. It will not be around forever, and we will see everybody over there.